pack is coming.
Cold water is ready. I know that's a bit off. Forgive me, I'm in a recording studio at school right now and I don't have my tea on me. Mic is ready, and I must add it's sounding phenomenal today. I'm ready, but I guess the important question is, are you ready, my friends? Hey, welcome to the Mykel Broady podcast. I am Mykel Broady, and I am absolutely thrilled to have you listening today. This is, as a quick reminder, the third season of the Mykel Broady podcast, analogies, anecdotes, and unapologetic aspirations. And again, it's just really special to have you here. We are tackling our second episode, the first Fireside Friday of the season, and I want to dive into that. But before I do, I have a quick announcement on our season intro, episode 1. When I first published it, it didn't have the video feature that I really wanted to emphasize. But luckily, thanks to my friends over at the University of Nevada, Reno, they helped me out and I was able to upload a video version on YouTube. So please check that out if you haven't already. But here we are, Fireside Fridays. This is extraordinary. And I figure we start off by kind of sharing the idea behind what it means. And so Fireside Fridays is, well, actually, while we do that, why don't we walk over to the campfire as we kind of set the scene for the episode. So the idea behind Fireside Fridays is to create an immersive audio experience designed to be a space for you to unwind, reflect, and heal at the end of your week. Don't worry, though. If it's Monday morning, you're still in the right place. No worries at all. But truthfully, this space was created for you to separate yourself from reality and the many influences, toxic or productive, that operate within it. You see, sometimes our reality can be so draining. It can be tough, tough being a warrior, tough being a soldier, tough being a lifelong learner. You're constantly battling obstacles while refusing to let the many things out of your control consume you. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're living your purpose, you feel like you're living your truth and all those things, it can still be tiring. Sometimes we need that space to let our guard down. I think oftentimes we kind of look at that as a sign of weakness, but even think about the best soldiers, the best warriors. They need time to put down their weapons, their shield. They need time to rest. They need time to eat. They need time to do these things. Consider this one of those times for you. Let it be known that this is a safe space for you so that you may find a better you. And although I can't hear your responses on this particular episode, trust that I'm doing my best to create an environment where you can have these discussions with yourself and maybe a fellow listener. Another thing I want to talk about with Fireside Fridays is it's big on vibes, right? We're all about the vibes here. I want us to step away from the futon we generally chat at for regular episodes and plop down on a wooden log or a semi-comfortable lawn chair while sharing stories of growth at a cozy campfire. There's something about a campfire, right, that just kind of makes us feel relaxed and calm and wants to, we crave stories at this time, and I'm here to provide them. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And lastly, I know it's kind of getting tired. We're walking, but this is the last thing I'll say before we reach the campfire. This is also a tremendous opportunity for me to share the many lessons captured on my note cards with you. As you heard in the intro and other points throughout the podcast, I keep note cards on me where I track different things throughout my day that I found encouraging, inspiring, that it was an example of maybe learning how not to do things. Maybe it was tough for me, but I still want to track it down. I want to share those moments with you. You see, they have this saying that knowledge is power. And yeah, that's cool, but then my brother Swint, he kind of added upon that and said, well, it's applied knowledge is power, right? Not just knowing something, but actually knowing how to apply it is power. But I want to take that one step further, my friends. Applied knowledge that is genuinely shared is power, right? So applied knowledge that then is genuinely shared, it's not tied to you doing something. You don't have to pay me to get this info, but it's shared because I want you to use this within yourself, if you so desire. It's worked for me, and I want you to see a better version of yourself in the mirror. I want you to love that person. That's power. This is what we're all about. And so this is Fireside Fridays, kind of the three foundational ideas behind it that I had in mind when creating this type of conversation. And see, the focus on this chat, as we here get this campfire going, let's get it going right now. Perfect. The focus on this chat is on relationships. And when I say relationships, people might start to have their own idea of what I'm going to touch on, but truthfully, it's any relationship. Relationships with significant others. That was that one that people probably had in mind. Family, relationships with family, friends, organizations, habits, you name it. We're going to dive into them. So with the shockingly high level of influence relationships have on our lives, we better make damn sure that we're maximizing them and ensuring our purpose is being served while in them. And that's what we're all about here. And I want to share a bunch of gems with you that I've picked up as it relates to relationships and talk through it and see how I can learn by just explaining it, but also hopefully see the impact on your life. And so to begin with the first gem number 1, analogy of a fisherman going to a lake. I don't know why I made that analogy. The title is so very specific. I should have listed exactly what lake he's going to, what he's wearing. But yes, this is an analogy of a fisherman. And so here's the story. A fisherman travels around these same woods that we're in right now to fish in a nearby lake. Time and again, he tosses his line in and is captivated by the beauty around him. The stunning trees surrounding him, majestic birds flying overhead, the steady current soothing any sense of urgency felt within, vibrant rays of sunlight reflecting off the water, agile butterflies crossing his line of sight on rare occasion. Hell, there's even a nearby fisherman who was kind enough to hand him a few cold ones each visit. While all of this seems rather delightful, there's one major problem. He never catches any fish. He never catches any fish. Over time, the lake becomes less and less satisfying as his stomach growls, his head throbs in pain, and his kidneys pray that another beer isn't consumed. While nothing physically changed around him, many things changed within him. Tossing his line in the water was no longer a joyful motion, but rather a painful effort. The current no longer released his urgency, but rather made him feel as if things needed to speed up. The tasty beer, it no longer served as a tasty refreshment, but rather a poison to further inflict pain within. Put simply, he suffered and attributed his suffering to the change in things he once enjoyed, when in reality, his suffering was caused by his purpose never being served. What he truly needed was never met, and it wasn't until he almost died from starvation that he realized that. I know that may sound like a bit of a gloomy turn there, but that's facts, right? His desire, his main purpose of catching a fish was never fulfilled. And he got beat up over time, and he started looking at the things that once brought him joy, and it didn't really anymore. And so what did he try to do? He tried to bring those things down. But like I said, in reality, it was just the fact that he never got what he came there for. He never got what he truly desired and needed. Maybe not wanted, but needed. And so as we may kind of laugh at this story and say, oh, kind of interesting, you told it pretty well. How often do we find ourselves in the fisherman's shoes? Seriously. How often do we find ourselves in relationships that can give us lots, but time and again lack what we truly need? So think about those other relationships I touched on at the beginning. Significant others. Right? They satisfy your avoidance of loneliness, but do they truly satisfy your need to be authentically you with full support? Do they let you be who you are? Or are they trying to manipulate who you are for their own desires? And they're not offering their support. If anything, they're just hurting you when you're trying to be yourself. But guess what? It checks the box of not being lonely, right? That might keep you in it just because of that simple fact. But you're not growing. Maybe it's that family connection that I brought up, right? Family, it can satisfy having a family, but is there truly any connection outside of similar DNA strands? You know, you can have a family member, maybe a distant cousin that, oh, you know, we're family. You know, this is what you should do for me. You should go out of your way to always help me. Even if it's at your inconvenience, it's because we're family. No. Is that the only thing that connects us together? Maybe it's the friend connection. We have so many great memories. Oh my gosh, it satisfies having all these great memories to think about, to reflect on, ponder on, and laugh at our bullshit probably in the past. Have they accepted and embraced your change over time? Has that friend that you had in 6th or 7th grade, or whatever grade you want to put it in, whatever time in your life, even though you've known them for years, have they accepted your change over time? Have they? Or have they always kept the vision of who you used to be? And that's how they continue to treat you over and over again, even if you don't have pride in that anymore. You don't want to be that person. But they still keep you there. That's not healthy. Think about the organizational connection as well. Organization, you have a job, and yes, it satisfies paying bills and, kind of meeting a few of your colleagues. Maybe you have good relationships with them. But does it allow you to feel like you're making an impact? Does it allow you to individually grow alongside the company's profits? Think about that. And lastly, the habits connection I brought up. Our habits, our old habits, maybe they satisfy comfort, right? They satisfy our desire to know what to expect, to kind of avoid uncertainty. But does it allow you to adapt to the ever-changing world we see and live in? Think about these things. How often do we find ourselves in the fisherman's shoes? Time and time again, going to these same places. Time and time again, expecting a different result, but not getting it. It's time to go. And really what the lesson here is a seemingly great space is not always your space. And that's tough, and I want to break that down there. A seemingly great space is not always your space. And notice I said great there, so it might seem like it's great. It might seem like it has the bells and whistles, and you can be satisfied there in some sense. But is it truly allowing you to reach your purpose or fulfill that purpose? That's the key question. And oftentimes, and in these situations, it doesn't. But we can see how hard it can be to remove ourselves from that. Let us do that. Let us have the courage to. Let us have the respect for ourselves to remove ourselves from those type of situations. Again, no matter if it's a significant other, family member, friend, old friend, an organization that we work at, or old habits that we cling on to. And so when we let go, this now leads us into a mighty fun segue into our second gem. We need to challenge assumptions of loss. I used to say something before of like loss aversion, and that's a popular theory, I believe, where losses loom larger than gains. But I made a comment on the podcast saying, yes, that can be true, right? Psychologically, that hurts us, but it has nothing over what we currently have. What we currently have, just the ability to breathe, the ability to call someone if you're lucky enough to have close ones that you can rely on. And that was where I kind of left it off at. It's like, yeah, don't worry so much about those losses. Just focus on what you currently have. And I understand that's still tough. It doesn't really set us up for success. I want to expand on that. And thankfully, my village, as you know, always comes in the clutch. And a friend of mine, Marcellus, said something to me that was so thought-provoking. And that was, loss is freedom. Loss is freedom. And that hit deep. It made me want to think to for hours and hours. Obviously I couldn't, but I wanted to. But I bring this up now because, as I first mentioned in that gem number 1, it's time to leave those relationships that no longer serve you, that are not beneficial to your purpose. But when you lose that person, I would be remiss if I'm telling you these things of leave those relationships, do that, but I'm not helping you with that process of moving on, with that process of dealing with that huge change in your life. I don't feel I'm setting you up for success at all if that's the case. And so when I say loss is freedom, this is what it relates to. The feelings that you may feel when you leave these environments, that relationship, with a significant other, that relationship with an organization. You might feel like you lost something, and that can hurt, and that can sting, and that can want to bring you to tears at times. But I want to say, is it really a loss? Because I want to think, we need to challenge that assumption of loss. And that's kind of that new finding that I have that I want to bring to light here on the podcast, far beyond just, think about what you currently have. Don't worry about the losses. No, I want to build on that. Really ask yourself, did you really lose something in the first place? I actually would argue that you probably gained a lot. Because think about it, in these toxic environments, how many things do we have stripped away from us? So that's when I look at that quote of loss is freedom. I'm seeking that freedom in that loss, and what I tend to kind of end that thought process on is the simple fact that in these toxic environments, we really need to ask ourselves, what did we give away? What did we lose in those times? In that really toxic relationship with a significant other, what did you lose? Your sense of freedom, your sense of being who you are unapologetically, your sense of feeling like you can just share whatever with someone without fear of judgment. Maybe that was gone. That was removed from you when you got into that relationship. But now that it's done with, you now regained it. Is that a loss? The organization that you've been with, time and time again, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I lost it. My really close colleagues, the money, the opportunities, the benefits, all those things. But what did you gain? What did you lose when you first walked into that toxic workplace? Maybe it was the ability to just be, autonomous. Maybe it was the ability to speak up without, again, fear of judgment. Ask yourself those questions. When you ever feel a sense of loss, try your very best to see it as a newfound freedom. What did you lose during that time, and what have you now regained? Don't have resentment, leaving it too, I must say, because 1, you learn many profound lessons that you likely wouldn't volunteer for, but desperately need. And 2, you're free. But to touch on that first aspect, you really didn't lose much at all. You gained so much. The lessons, although they're very tough, and sometimes you can't really extract them until time has passed by and you've had more time to kind of sit with your thoughts and process them. Those are powerful lessons, though. You gain that. No one can take that away from you. And even better, you probably wouldn't have volunteered and said, hey, I want to go through this toxic relationship and learn all these tough lessons. No. But did you need those lessons? Absolutely. Think about that. And then, like I said, too, you're free now. You're free to be unapologetically you. To be surrounded by people that truly love you. For gem number 3, I want to quote Black Thought. He's been a popular figure here on the podcast this season. But I want to quote Black Thought, when he was on Few Good Things with Saba. He said, a cool toast to the people we adore the most. Let's hold them close like the water headed for the coast. A cool toast to the people we adore the most. Let's hold them close like the water headed for the coast. In this time when you're leaving these relationships and you are, dealing with this sense of loss and turning it into a sense of freedom for yourself, make sure you're surrounding yourself by those people that do support you, by those healthy relationships that you have, by those that are truly for you, that want to see you thrive, that want to see you shine, that want to help you in whatever way they possibly can. Lean towards those people, because it's night and day. You mess around with the wrong people and they can have you thinking you're just the opposite person that you truly are. You can be a learner and they'll have you thinking that you're just some arrogant person who thinks they know everything. And that couldn't be further from the truth. But when you're around people that truly care for you, it's as easy as, slicing through butter that's been sitting out on the counter. What type of comparison? That was fresh off the dome, by the way. Maybe that was a little weak, but you get what I'm saying. They make it easy. Actually I had an example that kind of relates to this, where I was speaking to a really bright woman who I have the pleasure of knowing here at the University of Nevada, Reno, and we were in the middle of a conversation. And before she answered this question, she was like, hey, I just want to say I apologize. I may look like I'm spacing out, but I'm not. I'm just thinking. And I told her, hey, this is exactly the point that I'm trying to get across. When you're around people that don't support you, that aren't for you, that's how they'll judge you. They'll let you feed into those doubts of, oh, I just don't know. Oh, I'm just kind of clueless in some sense. Oh, I'm really spaced out and I don't really know what I'm talking about. But for me, someone who was absolutely for her and it still is and wants to see her succeed in every sense, I saw it as just someone who was thoughtfully thinking of a response, who wanted to maximize our time together. And that's just a small example. But see how it's like night and day? Literally, that person can have you thinking completely opposite of who you are. Cling towards the people that are for you. Because it's like, I don't even know if I can do the comparison, but they're like a million times better. How you feel, it's like it's not even comparable. I think that's why I struggle so much. You can't even compare it. The feeling that they give you, the hope, the inspiration, it's untouchable. So as you hear, with all these relationships, the first gem is to honestly act on it, right? It's not hard to know if someone's for you or not. What's hard is accepting that a lot of people aren't for you. That's the hardest part right there, is accepting that this person that you desperately want to be for you, that this organization that you desperately want to support you may not be for you. That's the hard part. But you have all the power. Then with that gem too, when you leave that, don't beat yourself up. Don't look at it as a loss. Don't keep second guessing yourself. Trust in your decision, okay? And think about how it's not even a loss at all. But a newfound sense of freedom. And then again, that third gem. When you're going through all this, it's tough. This isn't easy, but it's needed. But during this time, really, really gravitate towards those people that love you, that will do anything to see you grow. They are the ones that will allow you to take that next step into your growth, take that next step into finding that person you see in the mirror, really understanding who that person is and how they can make the greatest impact on society. So as you can see here, the Fireside Fridays are very intimate, very meaningful, very authentic. But this is what we need, right? Just a space to unwind, a space to just be ourselves, to feel like we can admit our vulnerabilities, to not feel like we gotta hide them, to let our shield down for just a second. This is a space for you. So as we wrap up today, I do still have a challenge, as you know. And my challenge to you is to act on the many relationships, helpful and hurtful, that have crossed your mind during this episode. I know there's some that you're saying, yeah, I need to leave that. This was the message that I needed to take that next step. I've seen all the signs, and time again, I've just second-guessed myself. And time again, I've just tried to push it off to another day and hope that they may change, but they haven't. You still haven't caught the fish. But yeah, you look around and everything still seems to be attractive in some sense, but your purpose isn't being served. Act on those many relationships. But like I said, not just those hurtful ones, those helpful ones too. Those people, and I know I'm really hoping that there's one. Actually, there should be one. Let one, if you don't have any, consider me one. Consider me someone who cares about your growth. And yes, people will say, well, Mykel, you don't know them. You never met them. You don't even know what they look like. I don't care. Look at what I'm doing right now. I'm speaking directly to you. If you don't have someone, you got me. You definitely got me. And I will continue to use this podcast as a resource, a platform for you to find that person, to seek it, to be that, to exemplify that every single day. I am proud of you. I am proud of you for taking this step in your life. I'm proud of you for having the respect within yourself to want better, to know that you deserve better. Please understand that. I don't know about you, but that noise just kind of scared me. That noise kind of scared me, and it's telling me that we should probably wrap this up. Thank you for listening, my friends. Act on those relationships. You are amazing. Let's continue to learn for a lifetime, redefine normal, defy the odds, and exemplify kindness, my friends. We have the power. We'll talk soon. And we're out.